Hi everybody, this is Dr. Cook. I wanted to cover a couple things for your final paper. One or two people have already submitted the paper for me to look at. At this point though, please do not submit any more rough drafts because I can't get them done before they're actually due. So just to review, this week you will be taking the practice test for the sentence faults. You will then have the sentence faults test due on Sunday, and then, of course, you will submit your final copy of the interview report. Where to find everything is, again, if you just go to week 4 to do, and this is where you will submit the interview report, and then you should see the practice quiz and the actual sentence faults test open up. Everybody has done all of the assignments, so you should have no problem finding everything to submit. If you didn't submit an assignment, you wouldn't be able to find where to submit this. I would like to talk a little bit about if you have submitted your thank you letter and it's not perfect. I ask that you go over it again and just resubmit it just so I can check the grammar. Some of you, I returned the outlines. Some of you need revisions on the outlines. Some general comments that I can see that, like for a lot of people, you want to make sure you have enough information, number one. No use of you in the body of the paper. No use of I in the body of the paper. You can use I in your introduction and your conclusion. Some things that I saw for the conclusion, many of you did not list any specifics. So rather than just say, I really learned a lot from Mrs. So-and-so, you want to give some specifics. What exactly did you learn? The paper is not about the person you interviewed. It is really about what you gained about and learned about the job. So in that final paragraph, really concentrate more on that Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so gave me valuable information such as, and then say exactly what this information is. Because this is a reflection, your conclusion is a reflection of what you learned about the job as a result of the person. So again, don't concentrate on the person and don't make any broad sweeping statements such as I learned a lot, or they were really helpful, or they love their job. Those are all nice things to say, but they really don't say anything and they don't give any specifics. Let's take a moment to review again the guidelines for this report. So if you go back to week 1, that's where you will find the guidelines, and I want to look at that briefly. So all of this you should know. Again, your interview report has 3 parts. You have the introduction, which is about the interviewee. You have 5 body paragraphs, and again, these cover the categories. Please be sure in communication that you talk about both written and oral. This has to be clearly delineated and broken down in your paper so it's clear that you are addressing each one of those. Current trends, innovations, or ethics. So you're only writing about one. If you're going to write about ethics, please do not write about innovations. If you're writing about innovations or current trends, please do not write about ethics. When it comes to that section, you do not want to use current trends or ethics. You want to choose the one topic that you plan on covering in the paper. The conclusion, you're assessing the overall value of the interview project. And so what you really are talking about, which I mentioned just a minute ago, you really are talking about how much did you learn about the job from this person? How beneficial was this particular interview in learning about that particular job? Point of view is third person point of view. So you should not have I except for the introduction or the conclusion, and you should not have you or your anywhere in your paper. Please be sure that you also don't want we or me or our or us, because that's all first person. So the third person, you can either talk about nurses, if you're writing about nursing, or if you want to take the singular, you can say a nurse, Or you can take simply the pronoun one. One must do this, one must do that. That keeps it in third person. There's no need to reference the person who you were speaking with or who you interviewed. You don't need to reference them in the body paragraphs. Watch your word count. Make sure the word count is between 900 and 1200. You don't want to go below 900. If you go below 900, it's an automatic rewrite. And make sure everything is in APA format. So going back to week 4, there is some important information I want to point out that makes sure everybody does this correctly. So you will see under week 4 there is a section 4.2 which is called APA formatting, the cover page and paper. These are directions which are very important in how to create the running head and to create your title page. Everybody must have this as part of their paper. So please, if you're not familiar with how to do this, if you didn't do it in English 101 and you haven't used APA up to this point, here are directions of how to do it. So under week 4 there is a sample paper. It's also over here on the left hand side where it says sample papers, but I'm going to go under week 4 and I'm going to download this because I want to walk you through this. So this is what your title page should look like. You need to have running head on your title page with the capital R and a little H. Then comes a colon, and then you have the title of your paper. So in this case, they interviewed a counselor, so we're going to call it a counseling interview. The title needs to be written all in capital letters. On the right hand side, you've inserted a page number. So again, if you're not sure how to do this, go back to the directions that I previously showed you in this video. Further down, about centered on the paper, and you can do 8 double space, that'll take you about to where you need to. You're going to have the title again. This time it's the same title as the top, but not all in capital letters. Underneath the title, double spaced is your name. Then we write Delaware Technical Community College, and underneath the name of the college, you have the date in which the report was written. So that's what your title page should look like. It should look exactly like this. If you are unsure, then email it to me ahead of time for me to look at it, and I will say whether or not you're doing it correctly. On page 2, if you inserted the page number correctly, it'll say 2. You do not have the word running head, but just the title. So on page 2, you take out the words running head, and we just have the title in caps. Everything is the same. Page 3 will be the same thing. Title, page number. Page 4, title, page number. So the structure of your paper is going to look just like this. The first thing you have is the title, and this should match the title that you have at the top, and it should match the title that you have on the first page. The first paragraph is an introductory paragraph about the person. So you're giving background information about the person you interviewed. That's why I said you need to have a number of questions to find out about the education and the background of that person. This paragraph and the last paragraph are the only two in the paper that you should have the use of the word I. At the end of your introductory paragraph, you're going to have what's called a preview statement. Preview statement sets up what you're going to discuss in the paper. We discuss all different aspects of our job, including educational requirements, job duties, communication, innovations and trends in the field, and client treatment options. You will notice that each section mirrors what you wrote here in the preview statement in the same order. So we have educational requirements, then we have job duties, communication, innovations and trends, and client treatment options as the last one. So whatever you do, make sure in your preview statement you have everything in your paper in that same order. Because this is a report and not a regular paper, you're going to break it down into the different parts. And so each of these pieces is going to be one of the subtitles or subcategories there. So we have educational requirements. It's going to be centered, and you can use bold. And the rest of this paragraph is about educational requirements, job duties, etc. We want to be careful of good paragraph structure. And so each paragraph should begin with a topic sentence that outlines what that paragraph is going to be about. In this particular sample, I think paragraph 2 does a really good job. Not all of the paragraphs are the same. Substance abuse counselors have a wide variety of duties and responsibilities on a given day. So this is about job duties. Your topic sentence kind of mirrors that and says what the paragraph is going to be about. And then for the rest of this paragraph, they go about describing job duties. Something that is not necessarily done as well as I would like to have seen it in this particular paper is in each paragraph then you should also have a concluding sentence. And the concluding sentence should pretty much wrap up what that whole paragraph was about. It should reflect pretty much the same ideas, just written differently, as your topic sentence. So when you get to the end, for instance, you could do something like this to transition into the next paragraph. There are many, besides the many duties or job duties of a counselor, communication is also very important. Then that leads nicely into the next section on communication, and then you start with your topic sentence, and you would then end with a sentence that wraps up communication, and you can mention innovations and trends. That's what we call a transition. Another way to do the transition would be to talk about it in this next paragraph. You could say something like, in addition to good communication skills, there are many innovations and trends. Well, that doesn't really make sense for the order of this paper, and that transition doesn't make sense. But we can talk about the job duties and then communication or something like that. Within the paragraph, you can use transitional words. So if you still have your English 101 book, I would refer to page 66 because there is a nice chart in there for different transitional words. You want to make sure the paragraph flows together. So in any case, you want to have a topic sentence, you want to have then supporting details, and you want to have a concluding sentence that wraps up that particular paragraph and possibly then transitions into the next. Or you can have a topic sentence in the next paragraph that sort of transitions from the previous paragraph. The final section of this paper is the conclusion, and you can write conclusion. Please do not write in conclusion in your paper. You're going to write in closing or to close. Here again, you can use the word I. The conclusion of this paper is sort of a reflection of what it is that you learned as a result of the interview. It's very, very important, as I noted on your outlines, to write about some specifics. What specifically did you learn about the job? Because the whole purpose of this paper was, or the interview, was to learn about the job. So don't concentrate necessarily on the person and say what a nice job, what a nice person that is, and that that person likes their job. You really want to concentrate on, from that person you learn some valuable information, such as communication is vital, and in report writing, this and this can happen. In addition, I also learned that. Okay, so give a couple, 2 to 3 specific examples because you want to show how this interview project helped you gain a better understanding of that particular job. So if you just write something superficial such as I learned a lot of good information or they really love their job, now I know what to do, that really doesn't give you any specifics. There is no need for a reference page, so after the conclusion, that's where you're going to end. Some other things about APA to notice: everything is double spaced, and everything should be in Times New Roman 12 font. Do not add extra spaces in between each sections. It's simply double spaced. I now want to go back and walk you through the various parts of the rubric so that you know exactly how I am going to score this paper. The rubric can be found in week 1 under interview report. And again, I'm going to download it for the sake of this video so that it's large enough for you to see. So it's broken down into different parts. Again, the minimum word count is 900. You want to make sure that you get to 900 or it's an automatic rewrite. Follows a preview sentence and has clear organizational strategy. Correct APA formatting, the spacing, the margins, the running head, headings for each paragraph except for the introduction, and the title page is perfectly formatted. If it's not perfectly formatted, depending on how many mistakes you have, you'll go down. Standard written English, this all talks about the various parts. So as I said, you should not have first person except for the first paragraph and the last paragraph. Everything else is in third person, and you should not have you. Sentence structure should be appropriate for college level courses. It should be varied. You shouldn't have the same type of sentence throughout. There should be few, if none, run-ons and fragments, punctuation errors, mechanical errors. So this whole section is on grammar. And then we have the content. So the introduction includes the interviewee's name, date of the interview, ends with the preview statement. So we kind of covered this in our sample, but these are all the things that are going to be scored. So if you don't have a preview statement or you didn't ask enough information, education, work experience, you're going to lose some points in this section. 3 areas of discussion are developed with sufficient details. Oral and written communication. So these are the 3 areas that you had your own questions. Then you have the written and oral communication, current trends, and then your conclusion to react to the experience with originality and insight. And by insight we mean it really does show how much you learned from this. So this is really the blueprint of how it's going to be scored. I would have a look at this. It's always a good idea to look at the rubric so you know exactly what is going to be used as the basis for your score. So I hope this helps you in constructing your final paper. If you have questions, please ask. Again, for the formatting, I will gladly look at the formatting, but I cannot read your papers ahead of time at this point since it is Thursday. What I would also like, underneath this video, I'm going to post a link to transitions. So you can kind of look at some transitional words. You know, when you are adding a number of details, you can add moreover, additionally, etc. But I would like to see some good transitions within the paragraphs. And do try, at least between 1 or 2 of the sections, to have some kind of a transitional statement. So, I hope you have a good weekend. Don't forget the other assignments that are due this week. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me.